I don't want a pickle.
Just want to ride
on my
motorcycle.
motorcycle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Noco Moto Podcast, episode number 279. I'm your host, MotoGP. With me is your other host, Swiggy.
Yep.
And we have a special guest on the line. We've got Scooter Dan. Say hello.
Live long and prosper.
All right. Coming to you from Moto One Podcast Network Studios, recording Suite A, otherwise known as the Tiki Room. And I think you guys are finally going to get a better view of the Tiki Room in the next couple of weeks. I've finally figured out what the reason is that I can't get good audio synced videos up to YouTube. And apparently older GoPros are prone, especially ones that are a little bit older in age, are prone to something called time drift. So, like, the frame rate and the audio and everything isn't in perfect time. I mean, it is on our H4, or it's not perfect on our H4, and it's not perfect on the GoPro. So one of them is recording essentially a little bit slower or faster. And so we're going to have to use more Patreon money to get Adobe Premiere Pro, which claims to have tools that can adjust the time lengths and on the fly and fix this syncing issue. Because GoPros have terrible cameras, and since we're using multiple cameras, we can't. I don't think we would have good results running USB into each camera from the board. It would defeat the purpose of having these cameras too. Anyway, enough about that. Whoa, let's get this episode on the road. We might have Dr. Mike joining us, so if there's a great big awful noise, you'll know that it's him coming in and sitting down. Okay, we are going to discuss, we're going to do best worst bike in the world this week, and then shortly after that, we're going to get into a little bit of the state of scooters in this world with Scooter Dan, and we are going to also do a rundown of the last 2 rounds of MotoGP, because holy shit, they weren't like the best rounds of MotoGP I've ever seen, but holy crap, were they dramatic. And
Peter, I'm going to stop you. There's no crying in motorcycles unless you are Fabio Quartararo right now.
I know, right?
That is the only man in all of motorcycles that is allowed to cry right now. It's,
I know. I know. All right. Well, we have more of a time limit these days, and we want to make sure we pack in a lot of great content for the non-Patreon members, so let's get the show on the road. Let's get into best worst bike in the world this week. Guys, here we go. This is what we're going to do. Swigs and I have each chosen a motorcycle. We don't know what each other have chosen. It's always a surprise. If you have thoughts, questions, feelings, concerns, or if what we chose just makes your dick especially hard or soft, or makes you especially dry or wet, send your comments and questions and concerns to where, Dan?
You can send them to Noco Moto, something at nocomoto.com. I don't know, info or
contact.
I don't know, Pete. Yes, Peter.
Contact at nocomotopodcast.com. Or again, if you're listening the preferred way on this, on just a pure audio podcast, then you could just hit the send us a text button or leave a comment on the YouTube video. I don't think we're ever really going to do YouTube comments on this show, but I mean, there's a chance that we'll, have a back and forth with you on what's going on.
I'm sure if you leave one that both of those guys will listen, will read it, and whether or not they react to it, it doesn't matter. They still read it, right?
I mean, it might be weeks after you leave it that we read it. But yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, Swigs, you have worst bike in the world this week.
I do.
And are you ready to reveal it?
I am.
All right. And the worst bike in the world this week is?
The 2025 KTM RC16, otherwise known as KTM's MotoGP bike.
Oh, okay. We've done a few of these. Yeah, this bike's a hot disaster.
And it'd
help if you grab the TV remote and turn the TV on.
I guess I could do that, yeah. So, the problem with this bike is it's not doing especially bad, but this bike has probably declined in results the most and significantly faster than the other bikes have.
It's just exactly stayed still.
Well, yes, to a degree. But I mean that's the same difference in MotoGP. I mean, in the same way that the Hondas kind of fell off and the Yamahas fell off, those were pretty gradual declines. They were long and consistent declines, but they were pretty gradual.
KTM went from maybe second best bike to the worst bike in half a season.
Yes. And they did it while having a ton of bikes on the grid between KTM and what's the daughter company, the other brand? Gas. Yeah, between
Yes.
the KTM and the KTM Satellite and Gas, they had like 6 bikes on the grid, and at the same time, they have veteran riders like. It's weird to think of Brad Bender as a veteran rider, but he kind of is now.
He's been around for ages.
Yeah.
Since 2014, 2013?
I thought he was in Moto 3 then, but no.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's been in MotoGP in general for a decade.
Yeah, and they've had all this long-time KTM talent. They've got Pedro Acosta, who showed a lot of promise in his rookie year on the gas bike, and now it just feels like they can't get anywhere in qualifying, anywhere in a race, and now they're getting consistently passed up by Hondas and Yamahas that over the last,
especially if they're a Frenchman riding those Hondas and Yamahas.
I'll stop you for a second. The only standout moment for the KTM this year was Vinales at Qatar.
That's right.
That's correct. But Qatar's always an upset track.
For
This
sure.
is true.
Yeah, for sure it is. But this is a team that's got the Red Bull money. This is a team that made a big splash and went all out and flaunted all this money around. And now the performance in GP is now kind of starting to match kind of all the big, a lot of the reliability concerns people had with KTM bikes, sold to the public, as well as the recent financial woes. It seems like everything's kind of come into sync.
Yeah.
And we're kind of watching a brand just kind of fall apart on every front, just comprehensively. In a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. Maybe RCA had a similar decline at the end of its life.
Oh,
but
wow.
I don't think I've ever seen something like this. And, obviously, the bikes aren't exploding. They're not coming last every time. It's not like they can't get into Q2. But everything has kind of simultaneously just slumped.
I agree. It's bad. When Honda was so far behind, we thought it was a big deal that Honda went from where they were to just getting to the back of the grid was this monumental achievement. They were so far behind. And now KTM's basically at the back of the grid.
Yeah.
I mean, Pedro Acosta has gotten some top tens.
Mm-hmm.
But that is it.
I mean, he's gotten more than that.
Well,
but...
Pedro Acosta is their top rider at this point. And at this point,
and even he
wants to leave the team. He wants to leave the team. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is that, weirdly, KTMs are kind of seen as this pretty upmarket bike in the dirt bike world. It's like, oh, you get a Honda or a Yamaha. It's like, okay, you got a solid bike. you end up going with like a Suzuki or Kawasaki. A lot of times people are like, okay, then you get a KTM and it's like, whoa, so hey, big spender. But like in the MotoGP world, the KTM, as good as the livery is, it is kind of the most boring bike. Forever, Ducati came along and just said, we're going to put ludicrous amounts of power into this bike, and we're going to cheat. We're going to invent the whole shot device and the ride height device and go with illegal aero and do everything we can to upset the stewards. Honda has tried all sorts of crazy shit, from hiring all of the best ECU techs in the world so that nobody else can afford to hire them, doing their insane, before the spec ECUs. They tried the reverse crankshaft engine at one point. They did and for a long time, the bike was basically just built for Marc Marquez. Yamaha stood out as the company that just insisted on the inline four and that would never move away from it, and has stuck to it. They're still there. I know that's changing,
but they found speed with it.
They found
speed with it again.
And
gotta give it to them.
What did KTM do? They gave up on the trellis frame and went back to a twin spar. And that's kind of it. So they, besides the fact that they're making their own V4, which is not super unique, they're kind of the most generic of the GP bikes.
I don't think that the Germans and the Austrians have it in them to cheat like they should.
That's true.
The Japanese have it in them to cheat because they are able to just call it something else, extreme innovation or whatever. Like, Ducati just, straight up cheats, and everybody knows it. And if they can't hide it, then they just, again, get creative with what they call it, like the Japanese, right? But I don't know, again, BMW makes these bikes, these S1000 RRs and shit that are so good out of the box, but when it comes to putting them in race trim, they can never really, they can't. Why isn't the S1000 RR won a World Superbike Championship or even a BSB Championship or something yet, right? I just don't think the Germans and the Austrians have the heart for what it takes to win at the top level of racing, which is cheating. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, and cheating is its own special art. And it's like cycle racing. We don't care about blood doping because they're all doing it. So it's all an even playing field, right?
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard about a KTM getting knocked grid positions for tire pressure violations, right? Doesn't seem to happen.
Vinales.
On the
Vinales,
KTM?
and it screwed them. It screwed them. Yes. At Qatar.
Yeah.
Was it at Qatar, really?
Yes, that he was out ahead and he got knocked down a couple spots out of the podium at Qatar.
It's
shit. Good memory, Dan. Well, I guess my whole argument is invalid now, but
I'm willing to argue that everyone's bowing down to the KTM or the Ducati this year. And there's a lot of manufacturers that are actually showing their balls this year, and KTM might be one of them, although it is the worst bike on the grid this year.
Yeah, although
100%, it's the worst bike on the grid this year because it doesn't have the feel, it doesn't have the top speed, but as Vinales has shown, it can go out there and give a couple good laps.
Yeah. Unfortunately, races are a bit more than a couple laps.
This is true.
Although I will say that this is maybe a topic for later, but the whole tire pressure drama and rule set in this season is
complete bullshit.
It is
yes,
the most
I agree.
obnoxious.
No, it's stupid, and the rain rules are maybe even dumber. but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, they seem to just not be applying them. Is what's
No, there's just no rules. It's the classic Stephen Merchant going, "What are the rules here?" There's no rules.
Yeah. Okay. Have we got anything
we'll
else
get back
about
to
why
that,
the KTM's the worst bike here, or should we move on to best bike? Or
I think we can move on.
It has the least points in the season, so we can at least look at it from that framework.
Yeah,
right?
academically.
We can look at all the other bikes that are doing better, because the Honda. Wow, let's look at the Honda. Honda is doing excellent this season. The Yamaha's starting to show
the
more.
Honda is outperforming our expectations this season. I wouldn't say it's doing excellent.
This is true.
Actually, no. LCR Honda is exceeding our expectations. The rest of Honda is still doing dog shit.
They are the second best manufacturer.
Johan Zarko is out expecting our patient expectations.
You say that, but they are the second highest scoring manufacturer this year.
Only because of Zarko.
No, they do regularly some. They do get pretty common, like 5th to 10th place spots, and it's the thing is that it's mostly just Quartararo, and the rest of the bikes in front of them are usually Ducatis.
No, we're not talking about Yamaha. We're talking about LCR Honda.
I just mean Honda in general.
Right, Quartararo is not on Honda.
Right,
yes, Yamaha.
But Honda is doing better than Yamaha.
Well, Yamaha hasn't won a race. In fact, they haven't even had a podium. Well, no, they had one podium. Zarko's had 3 podiums. One of them a win.
Yeah.
It's all on the back of Zarko.
I think we can save this for the GP talk.
We can save this for GP talk. All right, let's move on to best bike in the world this week. I think you're going to like this one. Okay. And the best bike in the world this week is the Harley-Davidson Dyna Wide Glide. Specifically, if I had to pick a year, I think I'd go with 08. But anywhere kind of like 02 to 08 seems to be the sweet spot. Now, the Harley-Davidson Dyna Wide Glide is a Harley-Davidson. There are a couple different flavors of Harley Bro, right? There's your sort of dude who's in like pirate cosplay, and they tend to have the FLH bikes, right? Your Electroglides, your Road Kings, whatever. There's your multiple war veterans. They tend to be on the 3-wheelers, the freewheelers and the tri-glides. We've got your Harley-Davidson wives. They tend to be on Sportster S's. But they sometimes are on Sportsters. And you've got the Dyna Bros, which are a very different breed than the rest of the Harley guys, right?
I'm not calling out my barbers, but my barbers might be the Dyna Wide Glide Wide Glide. Yes, thank you.
Now the Dyna Bro, I like a Dyna Bro. Okay, there's going to be a big range in Dyna Bros, but Swig, do you remember Brandon that we met last summer at Four Corners?
Yeah.
Dyna Bro, in the best way. There are some douchey Dyna Bros, but Brandon's a Dyna Bro in the best way.
True hog crankers.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, they're always in a vest, and they're always in flannel, right? They kind of invented the flannel vest combo, right? Especially like, the Dyna Bros, you'll even they're definitely the backwards hat wearing, like beard guys, but like, they're not like the crazy biker beards. They're kind of the more trimmed up beard guys, but it is a subculture which is a little bit more relevant to the wider culture today. But this bike isn't just about the subculture that's associated with it. It is a good bike. And specifically right now, because they're pretty cheap. There's a reason Dyna Bros are a thing, right? So the Wide Glide, this is kind of like the biggest, like baddest Dyna that there is, right? Now the Dynas are a cheaper made Harley-Davidson. Not that they were cheap when they're new, and not that they're poorly made, but they don't hide the suspension. You can see the rear shocks on them like you can on like an old Goldwing or CB750, right? It's just got the two dual mounted shocks right out in the open, rather than a monoshock or shocks that are hidden by the bodywork or whatever. So the suspension's all on display. They also come with the smaller front forks. They don't have the forks that make the FL bikes. And so to some people, they look a little weird because they're like, well, the front's a little spindly. Some people like it because it looks a little bit more classic, a little chopper-ish. There's nothing wrong with these forks. There are Harley people that'll be like, oh, I couldn't ride a Dyna. Like, the forks will bend up and twist and whatever. They're not as stable. Like, whatever. These bikes are fucking fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with these forks. They are totally up to the job. You're fine. They've got these great big front wheels, and they've got, I can't really say too much about the rest of it because people customize them to like crazy. But the big thing is the suspension. The frame is different, and the front suspension's very, very different. But the Dynas always had the big twin engines that the rest of the bikes had. So you can't say that you don't have a big Harley if you've got a Dyna, because you've got the displacement that everyone else has.
Yeah, I just looked up the specs real quick, and it's like 80 horsepower, 100 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah, 95. For these like 02 to 08 ones. Yeah, exactly. And
they're only like 650 pounds. So
exactly, they're 150 to 250 pounds cheaper than their Electra Glide cousins.
You mean lighter?
That's what I meant, lighter. Yeah, not cheap, lighter. But they are also cheaper. But yes, they're significantly lighter. So I would I still think Heritage Softail's where I would go, but second choice, like an 08 Dyna Wide Glide for me for a Harley-Davidson. This is probably my second choice. Mm-hmm. And you can find these in like excellent, like perfect cosmetic condition. I'd say the engines, it's really hard to kill these engines. I want to say like $7,000. It's realistic to find them for $7,500 right now. Mm-hmm. You'll find plenty listed from 10 to 12 as well, because whoever built it still thinks all the extra shit they put on it makes the bike worth more somehow. But for just a stock one, yeah, there's people giving them up for $7,000 for a big Harley. What?
There's a really rough one on Craigslist right now.
Oh, there's always going to be a few rough ones. Yeah. But
this one, well, I'll have to put this one up. This one is great. He's put Springer forks on it and ape hangers and spray painted in black.
Wow, that is bad. That is real rough.
He's fucked with the seat and oh man.
I like that he's put like the camera filter on it that tries to make the chrome like do the shiny pop thing. Oh yeah, this is rattle can sprayed. Is there duct tape on that seat? Oh, there could be. Yeah, I don't know that I'd go for this one. It's a combination of an ugly bike that someone's also taken really bad pictures of. What's this one? What's that one going for? I can't see.
6250.
6250. Yeah, you'll find them better than this for not much more money. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, we've just found them as low as 6 here. I bet this bike runs. You'd have to do some shit to fix it. But again, you'll find one with original paint and not stupid ape hangers and the original front forks and fender and all that shit for not too much money. 8,000's very realistic. And again, for a big Harley cruiser, right? That's cool. That it's of all the Harleys, I think it screams old man the least.
Yeah.
I think when we picture Harley bro, we picture someone kind of in their early to mid 30s is kind of the Harley bro age. There, of course, there's 20 somethings and 40 somethings, but I picture most of them in their 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, you know, the Harley bro is also kind of he's really stoked.
Dyna bro, not Harley.
Yeah,
bro.
Dyna bro is really stoked that he's got a Harley, but he's also not like super bought in. Like he's in the Harley club and he reps it, but he doesn't quickly buy into all these really dumb fads, like going with the Baja lights, or thinking he has to carry a knife with him everywhere on display.
Right.
Maybe he's got a gremlin bell on the bike, but
it's not... maybe the least likely of the Harleys for it to have a get back whip, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And that might make it the best bike in the world this week. Just that is the least likely of all the Harleys to have get back whip.
I agree. That itself does it.
When I eventually end up with a Harley-Davidson, I'm gonna have 2 get back whips
off each handlebar.
Yeah.
The left and the right. Yeah. Okay, I say, like, let's just, like, for once, leave Best Worst Bike a little shorter than we should, because we have so much scooter and GP to talk about.
Sure, let's do it.
What do we want to do first? Like, the state of scooters or GP, or what are you feeling, Dan?
Whatever you guys want to do. I'm game.
Okay, I want to do a little bit, because we haven't done, like, a dedicated scooter segment for months and months and months, right? Now, the last time we did really mention scooters at length, I was saying that we were talking about Harley-Davidson and how the glory hole is being clogged, right? And the market shifting to the other side a few years after everyone expected it to, right? Because everyone who's just sort of manufacturing and designing and selling motorcycles in the United States is just stuck in the moment. They are 4 minutes behind whatever the latest fad and trend is. And, you know, it's really like the Chinese and the Koreans and to some extent the Japanese, who are completely outside of the U.S. going, oh, we can see where this is going to go. Why haven't they gone there yet, right? As I always say, if you want a hit, look at what Honda was doing 5 years ago. Because Honda can afford to be ahead of their time. They're so big, they can afford it. So they're always kind of a little bit ahead of their time, but they're always right there for when the big thing hits, right? And I know I was banging on and on about, like, small displacement bikes, and I know the Grom is a thing, but the Grom, for the first, like, year or two it was out, wasn't really seen as a serious motorcycle. And there's still a lot of people with Groms that are kind of obsessed with getting their Grom and kind of souping it up. You know, they're trying to put, like, CBR 300 motors in them and stuff. And
it's the ruckus syndrome.
Right. They're
it's
not
just little man syndrome, right?
Yeah, they haven't completely accepted the Grom for what it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, plenty of Grom riders have, but kind of like, you know, like you don't see dudes buy monkey bikes and try to shoehorn larger motors into them, right? that crowd was completely happy with what the monkey bike was and is, and see no need to fuck with it. But they're also, let's face it, like half fossilized, which is fine. I will be that old one day as well. It's fine. But we're talking about the future of motorcycling. And when I'm going around, like spring hasn't just sprung. We're full on in summer, right? Last week was Memorial Day. And I am seeing as many e-bikes and Surons and weird things on the road as I am proper motorcycles. And the stigma of having something small and low powered and whatever is almost completely gone. Right? The younger you are, like being made fun of for, oh, nice moped or whatever. Like, no one yells nice moped at me anymore. Right? It's like a certain breed of old guy who's like, oh my God, what year is this? Blah, blah, blah. All the things you hear like from riding vintage scooters, or young people going like, how many miles per gallon are you getting? Right? And,
yeah.
Is that gas or electric? What is that? Like, they want to know because they're sort of like, and if a young person asks me about the Vespa, first question, it's not how fast it goes. How much does it cost? That's what they ask me every time. They're like, where are these available? Like, is there a dealer? Can I get one? Can you finance them? Are they less than $4,000? Like, what's the feasibility here, right? Because the general public has kind of proven that, like, 1.7 horsepower will get you to 26 miles an hour, or 22 miles an hour, which is enough to get across town. And everything after that's kind of a bonus, at least while the weather's warm. It's returned to a true sort of, well, is this good for mobility rather than for fun or looking cool? And we all know that the ultimate package for mobility, cost effectiveness, comfort, like all of that is a scooter, right?
A vintage scooter, yes, absolutely.
Well, even like a modern CVT scooter, but that sort of roughly, we'll say rough Vespa step through swing arm frame motor is the best package for this. Just time has just proven that, right?
Yeah, I think certainly over like the last 4 years, we have firmly gotten out of this notion of, oh, I'm a young guy, maybe in 6 months my credit's going to be a bit better, I'm going to have some extra cash for a down payment, and then I'll just go finance this really cool bike that's $15,000. Now it's like, interest rates on vehicles like kind of are starting at 12 and 13%, and it's just not going to happen. The door has been so firmly slammed shut on this idea of a young person ever being able to feasibly finance like a hobby purchase, that now what's feasible that I can buy outright? What can I buy used? And everything's kind of in that space now. So now that you don't have all these super awesome bikes that kind of seem just about feasible, we're now in this space.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Honda will always make a Goldwing. Like, the day that the Goldwing ceases to be for sale is the day Honda just closes up shop globally. Right? Just as a point of pride. Even if they get down to just making 10 of them a year, it will theoretically always be available. Right? And some sort of sport-ish race bike, even if it's kind of really toned down, right, it will always be available from Honda, as well as a shit ton of just super practical motorcycles in whatever form they take. And I think to some degree you'll get this like from all of the big four. Ducati is always just going to sell uncompromised, ridiculous sport bikes because it's fine. Like I think Ducati is absolutely fine going like, if we're a company 1/3 the size we are now, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, so be it. This company exists to build these for the public as long as that demand is there, and we have no interest in doing anything else. And that's fine. That's great. But there's this idea that every manufacturer right now, every brand, has to be all things to all riders, and I think that's foolish. Suzuki's one of the big four that are like the first to kind of start stepping away from that a little bit. Where they're like, okay, in our off-road department, we haven't developed much for a long time because we kind of have some like all-time classic bangers, and we're just going to stick with those. And they're like, you know what? Our street sport bikes are kind of all-time classic bangers, and we're just going to stick with those. And yeah, we could try to compete with the Goldwing and make another gigantic cruiser or something, but why? That's never been a hit for us. Let's just stay in our lane.
Yeah, well, after the Madura,
that.
I don't think they're gonna make another V4 anytime soon.
So yeah, in general, the scene is set. It is hard to explain to people over 55. Right? I mean, we happen to know a lot of people over 55 that think scooters are cool as shit. But we know a lot of fucking weirdos. Right? I don't
Peter,
know.
I've always been willing to argue that if you have a motorcycle in your garage, there is no reason you shouldn't have a scooter in your garage.
Right. Yeah.
So, and we could list if you have a single motorcycle in your garage right now, I could tell you the scooter you should also have in your garage, right? So list a motorcycle that maybe someone has just that in their garage, and I can list a scooter they should also have in the garage.
A VMAX. Every guy that has a VMAX, it's his only bike.
Okay, so VMAX. Let's think. A perfect scooter for someone with a VMAX. I think the Ruckus is a good one.
Standard or stretched or
whatever the VMAX owner would want to do with it. You have to assume they'd probably stretch it because they're a VMAX owner.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps. Okay, then. All right, I like this game. What is the scooter for a classic Triumph Bonneville?
Okay, classic Triumph Bonneville. If you've got a classic Triumph Bonneville in your garage, are we talking a modern or a vintage?
Vintage. 60s.
Okay, so you're already accustomed to this vintage vehicles. You should probably have a vintage Vespa in your garage as well.
See, I would go with the Triumph Tigress.
Yes, the Tigress would be a good choice too. Those are fun.
It's a terrible scooter, but
they're terrible. Yes, but it meets the aesthetic, right?
I mean, if Plague Mask is your aesthetic, then sure, but
But no, I feel like if you're able to live with a vintage British bike like that, you're able to live with a vintage Vespa, right? Like a VBB or something like that. Like you're able to keep a carburetor clean enough that I think a vintage Vespa would be within the realm, right?
Okay. Well, let's do this from the reverse then. What is the person who has, let's say, a Vespa Primavera 150? What's the big bike that they have?
Okay, so we're talking like a modern Vespa. I think if you're looking at a motorcycle at that point, you're thinking something with classic styling. So maybe like Moto Guzzi, like V7 or something like that, right? It's
Yeah,
fuel injected.
matches up.
I think a V7 or possibly a Ducati Super Sport. You could kind of go that direction as well.
Or maybe even like a Ducati, the smaller ones. What are those? The scramblers.
That's possible too. Yeah, the Vespa Primavera is going to be a wide range of stablemates for being parked next to a motorcycle. Probably one of the widest ranges of all scooters. Well, here's a good one to reverse engineer then. Who has only 2 bikes and one of them is a Yamaha Morphous?
Oh man, that's a tough one. The Morphous is such a interesting scooter. It's so long and so wide.
It's like someone took a Yamaha Majesty. So like it's like a 250 or 300cc single CVT automatic scooter, but it looks like from the factory it's been slammed low and stretched. Because a lot of our listeners aren't going to know offhand what a Yamaha Morphous is. It's a wacky. It's cool as shit.
I have to assume that whoever is into this is fully bought into the aesthetic, and they own a Honda NM4 as well.
Oh, exactly. That's
probably a good pairing.
Motorcycle. Yes,
that's a good pairing.
And this man is incredibly resentful of the fact that a fully recumbent motorcycle doesn't exist for them right now. Or maybe they own a Gator.
Yeah, if they have a third bike, it's a Gator. You're right. Okay, this is fun. Well, okay. Let's take it into just for me and Phil. What's the we'll go with Lambretta Series 3 pairing.
I mean, I know so many people that own those scooters and have so many motorcycles. You could have a vintage BMW, you could have a vintage Norton, you could have a modern, name it anything. If you're into a vintage 3, you're very into a Series 3, right?
Series 3 guys are ride or die Series 3. I'm a weirdo because not only am I a Lambretta guy, which is a very special flavor of scooter guy, but I'm a Series 1 guy, which is like the fucking... Well, no, LD is the bottom of the barrel for Lambretta guys. Although after I get this Series 1 finished, I would probably go for an LD actually. I'm that fucking weird. But
you know what LD it stands for? Less desirable.
Yeah. Hey man, there's a 150 GT kit that'll get them right up to PX 150 performance. That's not nothing. So anyway, so in talk, I want to get back to kind of where we started here. I think in the next 5 years, like I said, we're going to see a number of people graduate from these sub 1,000. Because right now, there's a whole generation of people who are addicted to sub $1,000 mobility. And pretty soon they're going to want something with a leg shield and a windshield that can do 40 miles an hour, right? Because okay, there's nothing wrong with your $300 e-bike or $400 or $500 e-bike or whatever, but you're really maxing out at 16 to 21 miles an hour, right? And on surface streets and things, that's fine. But like when you want to be in traffic downtown, right? 35 is really kind of that magic number where all of a sudden it's just fine, right? You know, if you're on your Honda...
Which 50cc does phenomenally. As you know, with your
50cc
gyro.
two-stroke does phenomenally. The gyro...
Yes, that's true.
The gyro will do 31, 32 comfortably. On dead flat, perfect circumstances, it will hit 35. Yeah, the gyro leaves
my
a
Zuma
sliver,
is about the same.
Yeah, the gyro leaves a sliver of desirability, you know, and as soon as there are hills, it leaves a lot more to be desired. I'm just stubborn enough that I make it work. You know, you know, 50cc really is perfected, I think, in the Buddy 50 and the Vino.
And the Zuma, I'm sorry, the Zuma 50
and the Zuma
is
50.
just so fucking perfect, man.
Yeah, that's 50cc's or 49 or whatever. That gets you a real 40 miles an hour. And tunable to get to 50, 55 with an 80cc kit and the right stuff in your CVT. Again, you might have a problem with hills, but whatever, right? And you can get these things used all day for like $2,000, $2,200, right? Brand new around 36. So what are the economic factors, if any, just other than just getting a little bit older and being able to save a little bit more money? I mean, do we feel like $3,600 on, you know, $13 an hour at Burger King is like kind of moving into attainability for some people? We're going to start seeing a little bit more financing options. This is where we need to have Phil on the show. But like, what's sort of the package that gets people to really make that jump? I mean, I think they're going to make the jump inevitably, but what could the industry do to make that jump happen a little quicker?
So you're asking, how do we make scooters more attractive to the general public?
I think that part will do itself, right? Just protecting.
Dude, I don't.
I really do. Again, like, because I used to look at, you know, not e-bikes, but especially like these, like, you know, razor style, like, you know, bird scooter things and whatever, or Lime scooters or whatever, insert whatever company, and that kind of stuff, and these like cargo bikes and shit, and be like, I used to look at them 5 years ago like people used to look at, you know, what they call mopeds, right? Not actual mopeds, but like scooters, and be like, that's not a good look. Can't you at least get a scooter? The way that people would look, you know, old guys look at scooters and go, that's not a good look. You can't at least get a motorcycle, right? But the younger generation just doesn't think that way, right? Like, let's not forget, recently it was semi-fashionable. Like, there are people who, like, there are plenty of people who got them because this is how they were born and they needed it. But let's not forget that some people did get full-on sex change operations because it was fashionable. Right? It's a small number of people, but it did happen.
So...
Right?
I thought you were going to say something about the one wheel, but that was
no, fuck no. One wheels will never be cool. One wheels will never be cool. You know? Look, I work with people like who are trans and whatever. It's fucking fine. I don't give a shit. It's fine. But let's not like kid ourselves. Some people did it just because it was sort of fashionable. Right? What people like under 25 think about mobility is a completely different planet than what we think about mobility.
Oh, completely. You're absolutely correct. But their just minds are completely set different on life in general. So mobility for them, like the freedom we saw in not just like cars, but in two wheels, they don't see that. They see a restriction, something that's going to bind them more. The idea of insurance, the idea of I could get in an accident. There's so many young people that are just absolutely afraid of that, and there's so much cheaper options right now, like a bird scooter or a Lime scooter, where they can just hop on it. They don't need a license. They
Right, but
can
it's
go
gonna
wherever the hell they want, and it doesn't matter to them.
Right, but it is a little bit of a thing of like, okay, I'm on like my, at a certain point it's like, well, I'm on my 5th bird scooter because the 4 before it got stolen. And I, like going a max speed of 16 miles an hour is great and all, but I'd kind of like to be able to do 36 and keep up with traffic downtown and literally get somewhere 3 times as fast and have a windshield and get half as much road grime and rain and bullshit on me. And, at a certain point, I mean, yeah, they think the younger generations think a completely different way than us, but they're still going to want a little bit more speed if they can get it. And, 49 cc's, like we said, especially in a 2-stroke package, gets them a lot of that without the motorcycle license, without the insurance, without a lot of things. I mean, laws vary place to place, but pretty much everywhere you could just buy a 50cc scooter and just fucking ride it, right?
Yeah, I think what people generally need is, I think the way to get there is you need something with that minimum power that can kind of get you that 30 miles an hour. But it needs to be something that that the average, 20-something person without a college degree who's working full-time can buy outright without financing. It needs to come in at that, like, $1,500 to $2,000, and it needs to be, like, 2-stroke levels of simplicity.
So basically, we're waiting for something like an Ice Bear that doesn't fall apart, like, in 6 months.
Remind me what the Ice Bear is?
Well, Ice Bear's a brand that sells a lot of shit, but what they move the most of is a Ruckus knockoff. They even sell a stretched Ruckus that's still just a 49cc CVT, like, totally fake GY6 sort of thing. But the problem is the bearings are shit. The problems is that they fucking rust. Their problems are the plastics, like, the worst plastic ever. Like, they just disintegrate.
Peter, the problem is that 90% of the people under the age of 30 just kind of suck, bud. But there are 10% there that are diamonds in the rough, that are people out there learning how to work on things.
Yeah.
They're taking all these tools that are right at hand, right? They've got YouTube, they've got Google, they've got a world of knowledge, and there's 10% maybe of all these people under 30 that are actually using this knowledge to take old things and make them run again, which is really fucking invigorating. Like, it's amazing to see because, for me, I'm a 40-year-old man, and most people younger than me don't know how any of the things that get them around work at all.
This is true.
So to meet these young people, these couple random young people that are invigorating, and not just like old motorcycles, but old scooters and old cars and all this other stuff, and it honestly has lit a fire under my own ass of going, you know what? I've always had more ability than I've had confidence, and my confidence has been increasing towards my ability.
Yeah, the young people that I want to hang out with the most are the scooter gangs, like in Southern California, that are just pulling scooters out of the garbage and removing every piece of weight that they can from them, just everything that's going to fail, just getting rid of it and replacing just everything, the bare minimum to get it on the road, and just turning these scooters into absolute wheelie machines and just riding them into the ground and then picking more scooters out of the garbage and doing it again and again and again. And there's this whole weird, like, Chinese scooter fling poo, like, scooter Street Fighter style that's evolving. And it's great. And, you know, like, today I was looking at the Smart Carb website, right? And if you click on the Smart Carb's website, the category for scooters, Smart Carb, right, makes like the most expensive carburetors out there. Their cheapest carburetor is $500. And it is specifically designed for a Honda Elite Dio.
That's stupid.
That's
so stupid.
But those bikes are so tunable. Like, go online. There's so many kits for them.
Peter, don't get me wrong. I would ride the fuck out of a Honda Dio. But $500 for a carburetor for a Honda Dio is kind of stupid.
Oh, it totally is. But that just tells you, like, where this tuning culture fucking exists, right? So maybe that's it. Like, maybe it's releasing more 50cc scooters that for a basic price, but are tunable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Like, they're still selling Buddy 50s brand new in the States. You can still sell a 49cc two-stroke scooter. You can still buy a Yamaha Vino, right? You can still... Actually, I don't know if they're still selling Vinos new. Are they? Have they all gone four-stroke?
I think they have all gone four-stroke.
Let's have a look.
Are they just doing the 125 now?
I don't even think the Zuma is a 50cc two-stroke anymore.
No, it's yeah.
Which I picked up a couple months ago.
I know.
The 2008 Zuma two-stroke 50cc.
Oh,
and
I forgot to tell you
this.
Good. You asked me what you would call a group of Zuma, and
yes,
I forgot to tell you the plural of Zuma is Zuma.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, we've got a club going on too, the XYZs. It's the 10 years of Zumas, and when we see each other, we drop our flags as a way of extending a welcome to each other.
Well, hey, there's a great angle. Is what's going to get people to make that sort of electric micro-mobility to scooter jump just the scooter culture itself, right? Not just tuner culture, but the general scooter culture, right? Because right now it feels like a pretty good time for it, right? I wasn't really aware of vintage scooter clubs as a thing until like 8-9 years ago, right?
It was probably when we were hanging out in like 2019.
Well, no, I mean, I was aware of it before then, but like it really wasn't. I didn't know that was a thing. I was like, I was like, okay, scooters are things that lots of people in Asia ride and people in the Midwest who have DUIs, and that was pretty much it. I was unaware that there was a larger culture of people who ride and restore vintage scooters, and even that people with modern scooters get together and do shit. And not only do they get together and do shit, they get together and do weird shit. Right? However wild and crazy you think your motorcycle club is or your riding group, it is nowhere near what scooter people get up to. It just isn't. I mean, like, Just describe a random game that you got. Like, what's the fucking potato shit that you guys do at band camp?
Well, I don't like to kiss and tell, but so the potato game. And listen, anyone listening, you can do this with scooters or motorcycles or anything. So you get a big pile of hay, and you count how many people you got. Right? If there's 5 participants, you throw 4 potatoes into that pile of hay, and it's you let the music go, and once it stops, the passenger on the back of the scooter or motorcycle jumps in, and they all try to find potatoes. That's the potato game. It's nothing special, but once you see it happen, it's just like poetry in motion.
Wasn't there one where you like launch a red hot potato into the air or something?
There's the one where they launched the gummy bears into the air, red hot. But the potato game's great because it gets so competitive. You wouldn't expect it to be so competitive. And really, it's the Gymkhana kind of games too. At like a good like vintage scooter rally.
Scooter Gymkhana is hilarious.
How well can you ride a vintage scooter? Slow races are hilarious too.
Oh, last year I took the gyro to the slow races, and there were people like booing. No, 2 years ago, I took the gyro to the slow races at Mile High Mayhem, and everyone's like booing, like, you're cheating, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. This thing is harder to ride slow. I don't have a clutch, right? And it's top heavy, and it will fall over just like a regular fucking bike. But yeah, it's great. When they do the slow races in Denver, the parking lot to Sportique Scooters has the perfect incline into the parking lot. So everyone basically starts like on the sidewalk and goes ever just gently up into, and it just that slight incline is enough to make the slow race really fucking hard. I mean, these are people who could slow race, a big motorcycle up this thing, for forever. But because of the stupid steering geometry of most scooters and the short wheelbase and everything, they're making it like 9 feet and falling over and everything. And they have them ride through sandbags. You have to go under like a limbo bar, going over seesaws. I've seen videos at band camp. You have people going through like wading pools and shit.
There's all sorts of stuff. We had a giant ramp a couple years ago. It depends on what the rally theme is. Like last year was Blazing Saddles. So we had an entire elaborate thing you had to do. You had to punch a cow. You had to rob the bank. You had to do a lap. It changes every year. And as we get older, I feel like it gets like a little bit easier and a little bit less like the organizers could be sued over it.
So everyone needs to join a scooter club and do one of these stupid things now.
Yes, exactly. Do it now before we are all super old and you're really worried about you suing us for our houses.
Yeah, like when I go to Mile High Mayhem, it's not that there aren't any young people, but like, I'm 41 and I'm on the youngish side of it. Like, yeah, there's a lot of dudes in their 30s and a few 20-year-olds hanging around. But it is mostly kind of like 50-something-year-old guys, sure. But it's definitely demographically like a full decade younger than motorcycles in general.
And here's what's a great thing about scooters. It's very the field of dreams idea. If you build it, they will come, right? So we've just kind of been doing our thing in Cincinnati for quite a while, just, working on vintage Vespas and stuff like that. And that's now evolved into working on vintage Lambrettas. And at this point, there's probably about 9 or 10 people in Cincinnati with vintage Lambrettas. And we're building upon all of that. And on top of that, as like people get modern stuff, we're just like, let's work on this modern thing, and hey, let's get a Nomar tire changer. Why not? We can work on all sorts of stuff. Like we want to work on motorcycles, we want to work on everything, and it becomes all encompassing, and it all starts from scooters because we love the scooters so much, and it becomes this motosexual thing. God love the misfits for coining that term. I will tell anyone till the day I die, I'm a goddamn motosexual. If it's got two wheels and a motor and revs my engine, but I'm in.
Yeah. Hold it. Did I hear you just admit there that you're now willing to touch a wrench to a Lambretta?
We have been known to touch wrenches to Lambrettas. And the more I sit there and watch and learn, the more I'm just like, it's really not that hard, guys.
Oh, for me, the whole genius of the Lambretta is the chain drive and transmission. I think it's vast. That part of it is, I think, vastly superior to Vespa. Vespa is vastly superior to Lambretta in just the frame itself. But the motor, I gotta go Lambretta for the motors myself.
And again, I have to say, personally, for me, it's always been an issue of my aspirations feel like they outweigh my abilities, right?
Uh-huh.
But I'm finally at the time in my life where I'm just like, my abilities outweigh my aspirations by a long shot, right? Like, let's start throwing my hands on whatever, because it's not as hard as you think, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, a Vespa motor or a Lambretta motor, they're kind of like old Moto Guzzi, kind of like 80s Harley-Davidson levels of complicated, which is to say, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. The more you break them down and just look at them, you're just like, wow, this is really easy, because you understand the basics of how it all should work. And that's kind of one of the beauties of scooters. They're just so simple that they make sense to work on them yourself.
Yeah.
I've kind of had the same experience with the Corvette so far, where it's like,
I thought you were going to say the Dragster, and I was going to be like, fuck no, that is not true, Swigs. But yeah, okay.
Oh no, the Dragster is, everything is one-off and insane. But on the Corvette, it's kind of great because whenever there's a problem with something and everything that you look at, it's like, there's no going over traces on circuit boards or digging through and trying to find like weird codes or anything like that. Like, everything that fucks up is either a piece of rubber or a relay. And there's something great about the fact that, like, you're never looking for fault codes or things. It's like everything that can go wrong is just sort of apparent when you're working on older stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a little thing to sum this up here. I think we've hit upon it, like, without trying to, which is the tuner culture, the camaraderie, the shops that are popping up. It just sort of, on top of being more affordable, I think what's going to push people there is that scooters are, I think, a much more approachable and friendly sort of thing to break into, because let's face it, we all know a bunch of salt of the earth, everyone's your best friend, motorcycle guys and motorcycle groups. But motorcycles always have a tint of, well, my bike's cooler than yours, or look how cool my bike is, or whatever. And scooters aren't completely without ego, but it's largely without ego, right? Everyone, by the way, Mike is here.
Hey, guys.
So, and again, Mike, put the mic closer to your face.
Hey, guys.
No,
Dr.
you
Mike,
have to angle it to your
the
face.
mic. Eat the mic.
Hey, guys.
Eat
There
the mic.
we go.
There we go.
So yeah, Mike, as a scooter guy, can you tell me real quick how much time it says on that recorder?
1 hour, 28 minutes.
Which means we're probably closer to 1 hour, which is great. Here's what I think we should do. We should just say sort of like the scooter culture is what's going to get people to cross that like $2,000 gap or $1,000 to $2,000 gap from micromobility to scooters. We should talk about GP, and then we can circle back to this for more bonus stuff. If we just don't get into something else completely stupid.
Well, that works for me.
That sounds good.
All right. So, we've got to talk about the last 2 rounds of MotoGP. So, sorry we just cut off the scooter talk there, Mike. We're about to get into not your expertise area, but if anything is ever going to convince you to actually take me up on using my MotoGP login or getting it yourself, it's what we're about to fucking talk about. Because holy shit.
Yeah, the last 2 races. Yes, the last 2 races. Are you kidding me? If there is any 2 races for someone that's a non-fan to watch, it's the last 2 races just to get you excited, right?
I am so glad that the core, at the very core of the difference between MotoGP and Formula One, and what makes MotoGP better than Formula One, is MotoGP races in the goddamn rain, right? I mean, not the most extreme rain, but pretty hard rain for the most parts. Like, it's got to be dumping buckets to stop the race.
Well, I think the last time MotoGP canceled a race was Silverstone in, like, 2019 or something.
Something like that.
Because, like, and it wasn't just because it was raining. It was because they had refinished the track and fucked up the drainage. So there was, like, puddles on the track.
And, which is so crazy, because there's one track that should be able to handle rain. it's fucking Silverstone.
It actually might have been way early. It might have been, like, 2017 or 2018.
You're right. It was something like that.
But yeah, MotoGP doesn't cancel races for rain.
So 2 races ago was Le Mans, right? Historic track, Le Mans. Le Mans been running for like 100 years almost, probably longer, 110, I would guess. I think Le Mans has been running longer than the TT. Obviously, like, not continuously. It took breaks for 2 world wars, but, like, if you don't count that, which you shouldn't, it's like the longest, like, continuously running, like, track, I think. It's undergone a lot of changes, but, like, the current track that they race MotoGP on includes, like, part of the original Mulsanne Straight, right? It's as historic as you like. So, it was raining. Was it raining? How much was it raining during practice? I don't remember.
I don't think it was raining much during practice. But I think this race was... this is one of those great races. I mean, it's not great in terms of, oh my god, it was neck and neck and, fighting every bit of the way and lots of passing. It was more like... in the same way that, your friend, somebody's a legend when a sign gets put up because of them.
Right.
It was that kind of race. So the big drama of this race was kind of, but not quite similar to last week, which is we had people who had to pick which time. It was a question of, is it wet enough, and is it going to stay wet enough to use rain time?
Well, the setup was very important.
That ended up being the drama of the race. But the real drama of the weekend, for both weekends, was that Ducati got knocked off of pole position.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. The drama started in qualifying because Yamaha and Honda both made it to Q2, which we were not emotionally ready for. But not only that...
It was two races in a row. Quartararo was pole man.
Exactly.
Beating out Mark Marquez.
Yes, Quartararo in the dry, no asterisks whatsoever, put in the hot laps on a Yamaha to beat Marquez on the factory Honda, which if
not,
you had
not just
said
one,
that to me...
not on the Honda, on the Ducati, not just one Marquez on the Ducati, two Marquezes on the Ducatis.
Yes, both Marquez brothers, which if you had said to me was going to happen a few months ago, I'd have been like, I'll bet you my children's health that doesn't happen. Right? Just no fucking way. Like, I'll believe that in some weird circumstances, Quartararo will win a race, but not put it on pole ahead of both Marquez brothers in the drug. Like, there was not going to happen.
No sketchy situation, no asterisks whatsoever, just straight up beat him.
And so it comes to the sprint, and Quartararo crashes early, and it's Leman, and it's
Leman, he crashed early, yes.
He crashed early, but then Zarko gets it on the... Did he get it 4th place in the sprints, I think?
I believe so. I think Marc Marquez kept his record on the sprint podiums, or for the sprint wins. And I think Zarko was on the podium.
No, so Quartararo didn't crash out of this race. He came 4th in the sprint.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Where did Zarko finish in the sprint?
6th.
6th. Okay. Strong showings for, what we thought would happen. But then race day comes. And there is a whole flurry of quick changing weather conditions. And it kind of looks like COTA all over again, right? And it's like, who's going to get the setup right? And I think Marquez personally fucked over all of Ducati. Because Marquez is the points winner, right? So anyone who's...
Marc Marquez continues to fuck over the entire grid with his decisions.
Right.
But I think there's a bigger problem in the rules, but that's a bigger...
for sure. But Marquez got the setup wrong, and almost every Ducati copied his setup.
The problem is that Marquez is not fucking over Ducati. The problem is that every Ducati rider is copying Marc Marquez's homework.
Right.
Like,
no, not even every Ducati. A large amount of the riders, and it doesn't matter if he got his homework right or wrong. He knows if he runs off that track and enough people run off with him, it doesn't matter if he got it wrong or right.
Exactly. Yes. All he cares about is, there's a certain number of people who aren't like Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez aren't racing the grid. They're just racing each other right now. So they can afford to be in a completely different place than the rest of the grid. But their whole thing is they kind of have to just do what the other is doing and race each other. And this is what was happening for basically all the Ducatis. Now, so we get to the Le Mans race. And holy shit, it's like big expectations. Everything's going right. And then the weather changes again suddenly, and everyone's got to come back in. And some weird shit goes down. We've got Quartararo leading early on because he got a decent setup and whatever. Out of nowhere, Zarko goes, no rain tires. I'm just going race tires. I'm just taking the big gamble. Was one of like 5 riders, including Jack Miller, who didn't have to go in and pit. But Quartararo is leading the race, crashes out. And then there's like this whole thing of basically every bike on the grid at different points is coming in to change bikes, change tires, do whatever, come out of it. And there's this big like Looney Tunes cloud of smoke. And the French crowd is dejected. The French crowd is like, holy shit, all of our hopes and dreams are gone. And then out of the cloud rides a hero. And here comes Zarko, just with the setup perfect, but it's still a no asterisk win. Because even when Marquez got the perfect setup and got heat in his tire, I think there was only one lap where Marquez
It was too
had
late.
a better.
It was way too late at that point.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
Zarko knew
but
he had
Zarko
it, and
even
Zarko
had
was
the
giving
pace.
us the beans. Zarko was giving us the beans the whole time.
He was giving it the beans. Zarko won the French Grand Prix, which hasn't happened for like a Frenchman winning the French Grand Prix
75 years or something.
70-something fucking years. Everyone went fucking bananas. But here's the thing. Zarko was so fast on that LCR Honda that if he and Marquez had started with Marquez in first position and him second on the grid, Zarko, and you took out like Marquez's laps to come in. If you just took their average race pace, Zarko still would have won. He was so fast on that setup.
I mean,
it is rare that we say there's a no asterisk rain win. This is absolutely zero asterisks.
Yeah.
And let's
add
not
in the
deny.
chaos.
Let's not deny Zarko has been crushing it on the Honda this year. This
I've been
is the
saying
best
it. Fucking
the Honda has
performing
done
miracles.
this year. Yes, he has. In the corners.
Miracles.
He has been so damn fast in the corners. And flat out, the Honda cannot keep up. But goddamn, if you can keep up in those corners, obviously, you can maybe put together a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think the chaos of that race cannot be understated, though, because, like, we started off with all the Ducatis basically switching tires at the beginning of the race.
Yeah.
And then invoking the new rule where they now have to start from pit lane, or they go into pit lane, so they start from their original grid positions.
And then
And they get two long lap
laps,
penalties.
Oh, I forgot about the long lap penalties.
So they all have to do two long lap penalties.
But when 90% of the grid is doing the long lap penalty, what is the long lap
right?
penalty?
So something like 9 out of 10 riders had to do 2 long lap penalties and still had to come in for a bike change.
Yeah, and then they were on the wrong tires by the end of the race anyway, and they had to come in, which added even more time on. I think my favorite part of the race was Alex Marquez forgetting how many penalties he'd done and did an extra one by accident. But yeah, I think it was only when there was like maybe 8 laps to go, we kind of finally had a picture of what the race really looked like, where everyone was actually like in the correct position with all penalties accounted for.
Oh, it was nuts. But like I said, yeah, just out of the smoke rode a hero, a lone hero. And it felt so good. You had to feel so good for Zarko. Because again, he was so fast. It was a no asterisk win. It was just absolute extra gravy that he nailed the setup. It was just his day, and there wasn't fucking anything that was going to stop it. And so now Zarko is a multiple MotoGP race winner on 2 different manufacturer satellite teams. Has that ever happened before? It's rare to win for 2 factories. To win for 2 separate manufacturers' satellite teams? If Zarko isn't the highest paid development rider of all time in a few years, I'm like...
Has Jack Miller done it?
I think I was going to say Miller. Miller would be the only person I can think of.
Race wins? On non-factory race
On factory?
For satellite teams. I don't think Miller has any satellite team wins.
Yeah, maybe not.
I thought on the Ducati he at least podiumed.
Yeah, I think he did, but I don't think he has a win that was non-factory.
Maybe
definitely
not
not for 2 different non-factory teams.
I think you might be right.
Yeah,
you might be right.
Like satellite wins are rare in general, and 2 different ones, like not just 2 different satellite teams that were the same manufacturer, but a Ducati satellite team and a Honda satellite team. Like, how do you fucking holy shit? This is rare stuff that basically just doesn't happen, right? Obviously I can't back this up, but part of me wants to lead a boycott that we will all stop watching MotoGP until Zarko gets on the factory Honda, right? Because he's the best Honda rider by far. It's not even close.
True.
Yeah, he is the best.
Have any other Hondas even pulled off a top 5, let alone consistently being in the top 5?
I'd have to check, but it doesn't seem... I can't think of anyone offhand who's...
No.
I mean, there have been some top 10s.
Top 5 now. Not top 5.
I mean, he's going wheel to wheel with the best on an LCR Honda. And you might say, okay, it was a fluke because it was like cold and blah, 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 and setup and home track and all that shit. But didn't he get like another podium or 4th place in Silverstone?
He came second.
Second, exactly. Like,
And Zarko's sitting 5th right now in points.
yeah.
He's fifth, and he's 1 point off of 4th.
Yeah.
And what motorcycle is ahead of him?
There are 4 Ducatis.
All
in front
4.
of him.
Ducatis.
Thank you.
It's absolutely incredible what he's doing. He needs to be getting a Honda factory fucking paycheck. Absolutely. Now, I believe the bike he has is probably very close to a Honda factory bike, because why would Honda be giving any of its riders anything but the latest shit right now? It makes absolutely no sense. But on LCR, he is not getting that factory fucking paycheck, which he really should be.
Yeah.
I mean, at number 5, the closest Honda rider to him would be number 13, Luca Marini, on the actual HRC.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into Silverstone now, because this is really heartbreaking.
Oh, and to answer your question, Le Mans has been a venue since 1923.
Oh, only just over 100 years.
Though 101 years. That's for the race itself, but there's been a race at that location of some sort, like auto races, since 1906.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Yeah, Le Mans has been, the 24 hours of Le Mans, like, before the track was like a real track, they were just doing like a dirt circle there.
It's a different track that the motorcycles ride to compared to the 24 hours of Le Mans and all that. It's a much shorter track.
It's a shortened version of the Le Mans track, though. Like, it shares like the straight, and then,
It shares pieces of it, yes.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of tracks work that way. Yeah. Yeah, like Indianapolis when they used to race at Indy.
Yeah, they don't do.
They didn't go around the oval.
Yeah.
It was like a weird track that had like part of a straight,
Right.
and then like they went around the infield and shit. Like, yeah.
Right, it's same with Daytona now. When they race Daytona,
Motegi is that way. There's a big oval track at Motegi, but the bikes race like this weird thing that goes in and out of it. Yeah, a lot of tracks are set up to do multiple different things. Yeah, they're not all like Silverstone or Coda, where the F1 track is literally the same as the bike track. But so anyway, fucking Silverstone was crazy too. Again,
Quartararo
puts it on pole. Whoa. It's like, oh, this isn't a fluke. This is like 3 races in a row now.
I do want to point out the sprint race was the first time that Alex Marquez straight up beat Marc Marquez.
I still want to see Alex do it in a full Sunday distance, but yes, this was total shootout. Alex Marquez shut down Marc Marquez.
So, and they're still only like, what, 3-4 points apart?
You know, and we're also starting to see a little bit of a Marc Marquez implosion. Not full on. I'm not calling it an implosion yet, but
they're 24 points apart.
Yeah.
They're 24 points apart after the crash. Yeah, but they're still less than 1 Sunday race apart.
Yeah. But Mark is not being anywhere near as consistent as he should be.
Yeah.
But he's Mr. Saturday. He is Mr. Saturday so far this year. That guy's got 2 wrists full of fucking Tissot watches at this point, right?
This is true.
He's also got
Like,
2.
Yeah.
He's also got.
lost them.
Well, he's
Well,
on
as much titanium as he's won in Tissot watches is also keeping his bones together right now. So
Well, I'll say what he's
This is true.
on is the Ragged Edge, which is what I would like to call the Jorge Martin strategy of winning championships, right? He is, for everything that he absolutely dominates, he kind of gives up something else too. Like, Jorge Martin won a whole season essentially by winning Saturdays and coming second place on Sundays with, like, what was it, 4, 5 wins on Sunday?
It shows you the power of being Mr. Saturday now that the sprint race fucking matters. It's not that it doesn't matter at all. It matters a ton. Because
does
if you
matter
can
a
show up
ton.
and be Mr. Saturday, you don't have to be necessarily first place on Sundays.
Right, but you still need to be getting podiums on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you need to be Mr. Saturday.
Yeah, you got to be both, but yes, if you sweep Saturdays, if you master Saturdays, then yeah, you don't have to win as many Sundays. This is true, and this is the Jorge Martin championship model, right? Because even though this was totally possible for Bagnaia did it by just crushing Sundays. And he didn't really give a flying fuck. Well, I don't know if he didn't give a flying fuck, but he's never been successful in the sprint races.
He's always felt like he's used the Saturday race to find the edge. And he pushed it over the edge on Saturdays, and on Sunday know where that edge was to make an actual win. Which isn't happening this year, but before it was happening.
Right. So I'm trying to remember the sprint on the sprint on Saturday. So really, here's what I remember from fucking Silverstone is going, holy shit! Like, the Marquez brothers are touched by God. Like, when was the last time a FIM ruling counted against someone named Marquez?
it was probably like 2018 when Marc Marquez turned Argentina into a clown show.
Okay.
That might have been the only time.
So what were the sprint results again, Swigs, for Silverstone?
Alex Marquez in first, then Marc Marquez, then Antonio, then Bezzecchi, then Zarko, then Bagnaia.
Okay. That's
Also,
right.
Antonio and Bezzecchi, Antonio in particular, is like kind of like the middle child who's been completely forgotten. Like, he's fourth in the points, and he's consistently like getting into podium places, and he's always like in camera shot, and he's in that like high vis Rossi yellow, and it's like, oh yeah, there he is. Okay, next, what's going on with Marquez? What's going on with Bagnaia? What's going on with Zarko? What's going on with Quartararo?
Sadly, next season, if Acosta gets his way, he'll be outshining DG Antonio, right?
Yeah, Digia. I like Digia a lot. I remember, was it 3 years ago?
I do too, but
it was 3 years ago. He had been constantly getting towards the sharper end of the pack, and it wasn't. And he had no contract, with 4 races left to go in the season, and then he won 2 of the last 4 races. And someone high up at Ducati just said, it's unacceptable that we don't have a place for him at Ducati next year. And they had to really do some crazy electoral math kind of shit to make a space for him.
but
Well,
let's be honest. If you had to pick between him and Fast Frankie for Pedro Acosta coming onto that team, who are you going to cut?
I'd cut Frankie.
Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me. Frankie's doing good this year.
He's a lot better this year, but Frankie always falls off.
I mean, I was remarking, like, when I was at COTA this year, walking around, looking at all the merch shops, it's like everything here, you know, all like the track merchandise. You know, they always do like all the top riders, and everything had Marc Marquez, Bagnaia, and Jorge Martin on it, because that's, you know, 4 months ago, it's like, well, obviously, these are going to be the top riders battling it out for the championship this year. It's like, you could not find a single piece of Alex Marquez merchandise at COTA trackside.
Ridiculous.
It was tragic.
So anyway,
and he left there winning ahead in the championship.
So we've got to get to the fucking clown show that was the beginning.
The actual race, yes.
So the British Grand Prix starts, and by all accounts, looks totally fucking normal. Oh, was it anything but. So in the first turn, heavy race favorite Alex Marquez goes down.
Hard.
Well, and not
hard.
and after,
He's in the front too. It's a great launch. He had a great fucking launch.
He did.
And you got Quartararo on fucking pole position, and he had a good launch too. And you're just like, holy shit, he's like going like a fucking rocket, and you just watch the front end crumple.
Well, he went straight from a wheelie into hard braking for the first turn on cold tires.
After the
pre-race,
the pre-race had like 8 solid minutes of talking to his crew, talking about how important it was going to be to get temperature into his front tire, because he was running the medium and he had to get his crew chief said again and again, this is a race that's going to take patience. You cannot just blast out of the gates on this one. And I don't know. Yeah, he got a lot of wheelie time. He didn't get the heat in that tire. And it wasn't like he got over like heavy and then put it down. He barely began to tip in and just boom, went down.
It just dumped. It just ate. He instantly ate.
It was
shit.
like watching a second grader eat it on ice skates. 1 second he was up, the next moment he's down. Right? That's just what it was like. And then, you know, everyone thought, oh, it's Quartararo's race to win. And
it was Quartararo's race to win, because even without the shenanigans that ended up happening, he had the race pace to win that race.
Oh,
so then
he
it
was
was
like
what
5
the other Marquez
ahead.
Mark wiped out a couple turns later, right? He wiped out in Maggots. Beckett's my favorite corner of all of MotoGP, right?
Yeah. So
everybody's favorite corner.
Quartararo starts like launching ahead. It's looking great. Then out of nowhere, Marquez crashes.
And
Maggots and Beckett's slides all the way then it looks like he like goes into a safety barrier or something, whatever. But it turns out at the same time, Morbidelli went down and somehow got oil on the track at like the exact same moment.
I think the oil was from Alex in that first turn.
Oh, really?
I think that's where the oil came from, was Alex going down.
Oh, well, anyway, like moments after Marquez goes down, they call a red flag. And Marquez is like, holy shit, I can salvage this. So somehow, because there's a weird rule.
He goes running back again.
If you can get your bike back to the pits in 5 minutes after a red flag is called, you can restart the race.
No, so
I don't even think you need the bike back. You need to get yourself back. So he got on a fucking scooter. Mind you, he got on a scooter.
No, okay. So you actually do have to get the bike back, but this is actually a separate rule, because Alex Marquez wouldn't have been able to rejoin the race if it was the normal rule, because when you throw a red flag, it's whatever the last lap completed was. It's
restart.
It's restart from there.
No, that's not true. If it's under 5 laps, it's the starting grid. After 5 laps have been completed, then it's the last lap.
I'm getting there,
that it
but you're also wrong. No, so
I'm not wrong.
No, if you're in the middle of a race, then it's basically the positions from the last recorded lap is where
because they had run at least 10 laps, right?
from.
Yes.
But if you're under 3 laps, then you just restart on the original grid.
No, it's 4 laps.
It's 3.
I will fight you in a dark alley with no shoes on. It's 4 laps.
They'll take off however many laps plus another lap because of the fuel consumption on that siding lap.
It doesn't matter what the number of laps is.
But
There's a short number of laps where it just resets to the original qualifying position versus the last recorded lap.
Because they didn't finish the 3rd lap, Alex Marquez, who crashed on the first turn, got to rejoin the race.
Yeah.
So everyone that crashed out,
this is straight up do-over. All the underdogs got to the front of the pack and got to ride their race. The 2 big favorites
on fresh bikes if they wanted, right?
Yeah.
So they went out on their B bikes. Marquez went out on his B bike, and Alex Marquez went out on his B bike.
Yeah. But I mean, they were both clearly rattled, and that's starting their B bikes,
which is their fault for fucking going down on the first and second lap of the goddamn race.
Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez have never suffered a crash they didn't deserve.
Yeah. Yeah, and I dearly love them both. They're fantastic racers, and they're going to go down in history as great racers, and they make the sport more exciting. But holy shit, are these 2 lucky sons of bitches when it comes to the rules.
And an important thing to remember, at the point the red flag was going out, Quartararo was probably about 3 seconds out of everyone because he got past all of the pandemonium that happened and was just free and clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we thought, because this is the thing, like it happens again and again, not again, but usually when these restarts happen, whoever had like a really great lead like that, their advantage isn't somehow quite the same on the restarts. It was even better for Quartararo on the restarts. Quartararo took the lead early and just started fucking flying.
Well, and even watching him going through that siding lap before they launched, he was trying to put so much heat into those tires just to get them like real good and hot because it was cold at Silverstone. And on the launch, he was just gone. And it's maybe the most heartbreaking moment I've ever seen in
because
all of MotoGP.
He starts going, and Alex Marquez crashed out again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marquez, though...
no, Alex didn't crash out.
No, Alex
you're right.
You're right.
You're right. Both our Marquez brothers fell back to like 9th and 10th or 8th and 9th, something like that.
They fell pretty far back. Bagnaia crashed out.
That's what it was. But Marquez, I think, finally got up to 3rd or 4th. Alex may have gotten as far as like 6th or 7th.
But Quartararo's race pace was just absolutely
He was on a
brilliant.
different... He was riding a completely different race than anyone else. And even at one point, wasn't it...
On the worst bike. One of the worst bikes on the grid,
At
arguably.
one point, Bezzecchi was like 0.3 faster than him. And then the next lap, Quartararo just picks up his pace 0.3 of a second. Like he was like 5 seconds ahead. It got like taken down to like 4.7, and he just responded. And even if he hadn't responded, he still at that point had enough of a lead that he didn't even have to respond. But he was just in the zone, had the pace, and had pace to spare. It's absolutely his race. He was controlling it from the front, no problem. And then all of a sudden, fucking rear ride height device. Of all fucking things to take someone out of a race with like, what was it? Like 3 laps to go?
I think maybe 4 laps, something like that.
It wasn't a lot of laps left. And when the way the rear ride height device works is there's essentially something the rider hits when the suspension is fully compressed in a corner when they're about to hit a straight. And it stops the suspension from like going back up to full height. And
I thought the rear one was electronic, and it was the front. The front
No,
one's
I don't think the rear is electronic. I don't think either one can be electronic.
yeah, they can't. It's a mechanical device. But
Yes.
anyway, so you want to keep the suspension compressed down for those straights, and then like hitting the brakes like releases it or something, or can release. I don't know, whatever. His rear ride height device got stuck.
I thought it was just like a little ball valve, kind of like you have on electronic suspension, where the only thing is like a little ball that just moves and like blocks the flow of oil.
I don't think so. I think it like just holds the back of the bike down. But anyway,
Either way,
it doesn't matter. It malfunctioned
Currently,
and made
all the bikes are allowed to have a rear suspension device, which allows you to lower the ass end so you can get more speed on the straightaway. It's stuck, and this is a device they're going to get rid of.
Yeah.
And what, 2027?
It was definitely by 2027, but it might have even been by next year. This might be the last year for
I believe they're just keeping the rules the same until the new bikes.
It could be. Anyway, I'll be happy to see the rear ride height go away, honestly.
Ditto.
But, yeah, it just makes the bike unrideable when it's stuck down. So, I mean, he just had to just put his hand up in the air and just ride off the track and just collapsed on the ground crying, basically, because Yamaha hasn't won a race since, what's it been, like 5 years?
This hasn't been that long. It's been like a full 2 years or more without winning.
And when it's just your weekend and it's just your race like that, like, to give it up over something dumb mechanical, because it's a dumb mechanical device. It's not electronic. Like, it's something that hung up on him. You know, it was just heartbreaking. And just watching him just absolutely, how could you not break down? You had it. You were the fastest. You were the best.
Oh, I know why I think it's been 5 years. Because they said it's been like 100 races or something, but they were including the sprint races in
sprints, yes.
Yeah. It's been like 3 years or something since they've had, and Quartararo, I think, was the last Yamaha winner. But yeah, because he won those 2 back-to-back championships, and then it just dried up at Yamaha. But it was his
Quartararo only won 1 championship.
Really?
2021, I believe. Because 2022 would have been Pecco. 2023 was Pecco. 2024 was Martin.
I thought he won twice in a row before Mir.
Nope, Mir won the weird year of 2020, and then after that, Quartararo won 2021. Now, he gave a damn good fight in 2022 against Pecco, but Pecco irked it out right at the end.
Huh. I thought Quartararo won 2 championships. Whatever. Doesn't matter. He definitely came close one year.
2022, he was real close. I think it was the difference of like crashing out of one race.
I do remember the one that he won, though, because he had the one of the worst championship victory celebrations of all time, where he just stood there dancing, and they had a CG, like a 100-foot tall CG giant devil dancing next to him on the track. I don't know if anyone else remembers those horrible moments in motorcycle racing.
They definitely should have brought out the sexy nun that is tattooed on him, right?
Yes.
He should have came out.
Or the devil should have at least had his fucking like onesie unzipped impossibly low, right? But anyway, it was Quartararo's fucking weekend, and it got taken away from him. Now I can't necessarily put like a huge asterisk on Bezzecchi because, you know, a mechanical failure is the team's fault. And it is, at the end of the day, weirdly still a team sport, right? We forget it all the time. But that's the team's fucking problem that the rear ride height device failed.
It's true.
And it kind of made for a little bit of an off-track drama that the Aprilia won this weekend too. In hindsight of Jorge Martin kind of talking shit about his own team while he's on the sidelines, right?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Bezzecchi, whether he likes it or not, this is gonna be kind of like Amir's 2020 championship, where it's just gonna get memory hold because just too much other weird shit happened.
Yeah, but I highly encourage anyone to start watching now and go back and watch these two races, because there are plenty of classic races that you can watch where just a story unfolds throughout the race. But these last two races, the whole weekends, have just been filled with so many crazy twists and turns.
And not just that, it blew up the entire idea of what we thought was happening this season, because we were looking at what was happening this season and we were just like, well, the Marquez brothers are just going to do really fucking good this year, and we have found the chink in the armor, and it has just been
and
that much better.
Weird
watching
French
the
guys.
mighty fall, right? Watching the mighty fall, it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough time that if Quartararo I mean, he's pretty far behind, but I mean, if he kept putting in weekends like this, it's not impossible for him. But really all we need, like, I don't need any particular person or team or manufacturer or whatever to win every year. I just need the season to be exciting. And I would like it to not be a foregone conclusion with 7 races to go. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Absolutely.
And so Quartararo showing up like this and Zarko proving that the Honda is capable of great things is like, oh, okay. It's not impossible. It's not a foregone conclusion. There is a reason to keep watching. And even if Marc Marquez sews it up with 6 races to go or something, those last 5 after that, there's still a lot of interesting things that can happen. Everything is still possible. That's what we need to know as race fans, is that weekend to weekend, anything's still possible. And it was starting to look like it wasn't.
There's also the likelihood that Marc Marquez might have the Marc Marquez effect again, but instead of happening to Honda, it's going to happen to Ducati. Right? We're already kind of seeing it because we've watched Ducati's top rider, Pecco, just absolutely not be able to ride the bike anymore. Well, Marc Marquez is just like, I can ride it. Well, he's the only one. Him and,
And Alex.
and Alex are the only two that can really, like, ride it to that level. That are they creating a situation again where they're going to, create a bike that's only rideable by those two people?
So,
how much time we got, Mike, on the recorder?
2 hours, 12 minutes.
Okay, we should definitely.
Let me just wrap this up with a thought, which is,
yes,
we were kind of going into the season knowing that in 2027 the bikes are changing completely, the rules are changing completely, and it's kind of like a big reset. And we kind of started the season off thinking that, well, it's just a foregone conclusion that the top 5 places at the end of the season is going to be 5 Ducatis. Probably 6. And now we're in this place where rather than have Ducati having simply mastered this this iteration, this generation of MotoGP bikes, we're now looking at things getting shaken up in the final era, in the final hour, and we're going to get to watch a conclusion to this entire generation of MotoGP bikes. And it's kind of up in the air who's going to come out on top at the end of 2026. And that's really kind of what everything's kind of battling towards right now. And now with this little bit of a shakeup that's kind of happened in the last 3-4 races, like, that's turning into a far more exciting proposition than kind of what we were staring down at the beginning of the season.
I
Well
agree.
said.
Yeah.
Well said.
All right, here, let's put in a little outro and then get right into bonus content. So if you're not a Patreon member, like hundreds of people are doing, like each week now, just go to the Patreon, check it out, and if you want to, you can do it for just 1 month. You can just join at the $1 level for 1 month and see if the extra 30, 40 minutes per week for about 25 cents an episode is worth it to you. Plus, like, I'm starting to put more shit up there. I put some original music up last week. I'm going to put some more up this week, and the garage videos are going to start soon. There's going to be a lot of cool shit, so... And anything that we are going to put that's not the podcast on the YouTube will probably appear on the Patreon first as well. So early access to anything that's going to be YouTube, and early access, well, full access to full-length episodes. All right, everybody, here we go. And I don't want to die. I just want to ride on my motorcycle. Go. I love it when it's out of time.